Haznazunvag V's Haus Zeek Gum Kazum Nazer Booms Gaz Haznazunvag Viz Haz Zik Gum Kazum Nazer Bums Gaz Haznazu Nvag V's Haus Zik Gum Kazum Nazir Voons. What are your initial impressions of
that chant?
the chant of Mavon this year?
Darkness. I feel darkness presenting itself in a different light.
And I have sent you the graphic in the chat.
All right.
And so the fall equinox this year will be September 22nd, 2023, 11:49 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So it's going to be 12:49 a.m. Mountain, 1:49 Central, 2:49 Eastern. And I am bouncing this year's fall equinox off the Drakon covenant. And I'm including some Greek themes. And I'm not getting myself to show up. We're going to have to do one of these in the morning, maybe, when the light's different.
We can see the board good,
but
we can't
so
see you.
So the verses that I will use to relate to the mythology of vampires from the Quran, we have Surah 2, 173, 5:3, 733, 6, 145 to 146, 16, 66 to 76, and 114 to 116, 19, 77 to 83, 22, 36 to 37, 41, 19 to 25, 96, 1 to 19. In Enoch, you know, what they call the Old Testament, we have Proverbs 2, 16 to 19, 5, 1 to 23, 7, 1 to 27, 30, 11 to 33, Isaiah 27, 1 and 34, 1 to 17, Genesis 2, 4 to 6, and 1 to 27. You know, the book order's different than what I'm going over here. Job 26, 11 to 14, and 29, 17. And then in the, Micah would be 7, 7, right? And then in the Biblia, or, the Greek New Testament, we have Acts 15, 27 to 29, Romans 23, 9 to 19, Revelation 16, 6, and 17, 3 to 6. Deuteronomy should have been mentioned earlier, 18, 9 to 12, and 1 Peter 5, 8. You see these letters going down the center of the bottom of the graphic, and feel free to throw anything in that you want. And before I go into that, I think I should mention one of the things that I use the reference to Core and the Princess of Cups, not only in terms of their placement as a seasonal in general, but it also relates more to the vampiric leaderess or goddess or whatever that people would talk about. So it kind of fits into that theme, that type of character.
Right.
So that's why I have listed that sort of thing. And as far as the tarot, every card's a good card and a bad card, so we're not saying necessarily anything with that. But so we have 7 centers that are in us and 6 centers that are outside of us. So going up, we have Gub, Dur, Hukut, and then outside we have, going down, Amsh, and we have below the person, in this sequence, we have Ar. So the Ain, the Ra, and the I'm not sure what to call it, but the glottal stop. And as some people who might not know, okay, we end up with the tarot cards. So within ourselves, we have the universe or the world as our top sphere, our Saturnian sphere, which in Drakon Covenant would be the one to focus on the most, actually, even though they talk about raising your awareness through the centers, you can say, but raising in terms of like going from one center to the other. You're not really raising your vibrations and killing yourself because of high vibrations. Like, if anything, you're calming yourself down. But
Right.
so we have, the crater, as some people would call it, is the void. I'll have to look that up. Maybe I'll have to memorize that before the next show. The gain or the twisted rope, the GH, you want to drag the guttural G, like it's some Arabic or something, but it's the darkening. So imagine you have 2 extra cards in the tarot, and one is the void and the other is the darkening, obscuring. In tonic, you have the mention of, for example, the difference between Ain and Bain would be Gomorrah. And in the 22 letter versions, you have Amra rather than, which is, but in the others, you have Gramra. And that would clarify something right there, because a lot of things that sound negative or bad are in the sort of thing. But this is clouding, the darkening, twisting sort of card. The Ein is the devil card. The Gom, it's not Gimel at this point, it's Gom, which is a boot. But this is the high priestess, because the high priestess goes from different directions, right? She's got the esoteric, the exoteric, and the ethnic. So the I'm not sure what order I said that in, but so those 3 things.
Yeah. Now, I meant to throw in that vampirism is not a bad thing. It's not just about attacking someone. A lot
of things in their reference is sort of amoral. It's where you put it, right?
Right. It's energetic working. That it's used with what magical maturity, I guess you could say. It's definitely needed.
And so we have the next letter, the bait. The bait would be all these things actually descend from the Hyperboreans. The Hyperboreans are Gog and Magog, are where the alphabet comes. The Greeks got the Greeks and the Germans and all that. The alphabet system that we have kind of descended from the Hyperboreans, particularly the Slavic ones, far more than it did. People try to credit the Jews with too much. they kind of descended from that other area. And the Jews, they kind of mixed in their mythology and their language and stuff like this from the Egyptians and a bunch of other groups too. So,
Mhm.
and of course, Judaism doesn't go back nearly as far as you're going to hear people talk about in a church or synagogue.
Right.
And the word for protection is guzhas. So that's that first word that we're coming across here. So the bait is the is the magician card. Okay, just making sure you're still there because it paused.
Yeah.
So the magician
Yeah.
card is you got your plan and all that stuff, and then you have the D, which is sort of a door, or it's the door hanging down, or it's the breast or something. Sometimes it's a fish, but the thing is, it's the Empress card. So it's the
Gotcha.
cyclical aspect of nature. Of course, we're rising up the centers. You got the 7 main chakras, if you want to look at that, or something like this. And then you have the Rash, and Rash is the head, and Rash is the sun. Remember that lesson with the Thoth Tarot in particular, the liberation through joy. That's what's going on right there.
Okay.
And then you have the
Something
the P. So Gub, Derp, Cut is again the centers within oneself. The P is the Tower card. So you're breaking free from the prison of matter, because it's just a material vessel, and we'll get to that when we address more.
Awesome.
V's goal is practical something. So I'm not sure how things break down with that. So Gubkism is immortality, heaven's mysteries, that sort of thing. Navug is believing our eyes. Oh, blaring. Oh, burning eyes. Okay.
Burning eyes.
So I'm trying to figure out the words as we go along. Vums is harsh or mysterious stone. And I think that's it with what I have ready in terms of what the things mean, because I'm not finding anything else.
About the eyes, it's like a long, long time ago, I heard someone very close to me say, she gave me advice, and the advice was, uh, don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. And I was young, and it took me a while to really grasp that. But I realized, you don't believe half of what you see because, appearances can be deceiving. So it's kind of like looking outside the box, kind of like removing oneself from a situation they're in, holding off on the emotional aspect. And when they look
Well,
at it from the outside, they can see a little bit clearer and
well, as you
back
kind of
in and fix it.
as I'm
Or
sure you're aware, the box is both a symbol of the death aspect and the feeding aspect. And so, but the vessel that we're in is not quite it. Now, speaking of the Drakon covenant, the seal that you have there in the shield, remember how I've colored that kind of I experimented with, I used different coloring before, and you got the seal of the moraine, or the morena, which is the symbol above that. The word sun in the middle has nothing to do with it. It's just how the board played out.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
so in a similar lesson, you have the calf, and the calf is the fist, but it's not the vicissitudes of fate so much as what you do with it. So the wheel card of the tarot is more of your response, you know, your consciousness and your approach and all that other stuff, either from your perspective, either slows things down, but it keeps you equiposed, whatever. That's the lesson you're supposed to have. We already said that the Tau is the mark. The T is the so, you know, you got the spheres going up. And so you had so Saturn, and then you had Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. And so now we go up, we have the Sheen, which is the Ion, or the Judgment card. And of course, Judgment varies per plane and stuff. So that's something to look at there too. You got the Mean card, which mean means water, and it's the you know, it's the hanged man, the drowned man. One of the things you find is sometimes the card shows a guy hanging on a tree, and the guy hangs on the tree, and this is the
he looks kind of at peace.
well, it's a mystical thing. It's a shamanistic thing. And so I've worked a culmination, as you might have seen from the thing, but the final card is the Aleph, and so the ox head, and that's the full. So you're inside and outside of the system, and so the the T forms in the middle of the thing, the planetary sides form the, you know, so alphabets kind of form a mythological structure in so many languages. And a lot of that's been lost, but I think there was a lot more of it in some of the ones that we have deciphered, per se. And so before we get into the formula that I've developed from Codex Artaxerxes, which I've already shared a comment on the channel, at least one comment. I'm not sure if the book's available from anybody per se, but if one looks past, and but one thing good that A.A. Moraine, as he calls himself, as far as the author of these two books, I'll do a next year. I plan to do another seasonal, more along the lines of the Skyfall book, but the he does point out that prison and crime and stuff like this it's not necessary for itself. Now, if you're put in that situation, the isolation or whatever, to test you or whatever, use that opportunity. Whether it's good or bad, use your opportunity. But yeah. So the chant, it's quite a long one, but it's the vampirism chant. And before I tell you what it means, which I've written down just a regular translation here. Uru lil al roar mazah al lal ili Allah gumkazam sirhi evzam husbandam vug lazu gvalts civil zirah zihlel azalksfi Namban Lizet Volzum Agab Lechel Othbum Mabz Zahzmaz Havik Vumgab Gus Vub Vahbaz Vabi Zov Obvum. And what are your initial impressions of this?
Come to my mind that destruction and unbalances in nature, you know, the base root of sadness. Things start within, you know, to clean up, you know, the mess. So yeah, that's imbalances in nature. It's causing more than meets the eye.
So the translation of this is the sixfold transfer of the honey of the sun and moon is had in orange, black, purple, or violet, blue, green, red, white, and yellow. The mysteries of the heavens are claimed, or my own, to separate with the companions are familiars who distinguish themselves in mastery of union are with the demons of feeding up of the infernal and death energy to feed on now the enemies. The manipulation is from the very center to the external. The rhetoric is internalized upon the borders. The leader's manipulation is by interplay. There's violence in the spoiling, manipulation of the perception. A psychic attack is on the umbral, chthonic, milk, shape-shifting, or desire perceived, bind or conditional, cerebral fluid, blood connecting, sexual fluid, and the emotional or psychiatric. And I tried to include every bit of meaning from these words that I could in there, and I guess it didn't come off as smooth as I had thought. And another way to pronounce this, I guess, Ara lil al roar mazah al lal ele ala gabkazam serhe evzam hezbanvam vug lazu Vox Savo Azirah Zeh Lil Is Alxfe Nimbanazet Valsam Agab Lechel Avbam Mabaz Zahzamaz Havek Vam Gab Gus Vab Vahbaz Vabe Zaav Ababam. And I'm going to try again to see if you can see what I've shown on. I guess we can't share that this time. I'm gonna try after I.
Okay.
So any thoughts before we go into the
Yeah, I was wondering your thoughts on the astral plane. I've heard of, mastering in the astral plane and maneuvering in the astral plane. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, sometimes it varies what people mean by the astral plane. Do they mean just the projectional emotional field of some sort, or do they mean the spiritual, like the Janut, the fire being realm? It kind of varies per that. And one of the things that people say when they're, particularly the people who are going to practice what's called Sifr, is that working with the fire beings, working with the heat is one of the meanings of that, is that they've, so that realm is touched upon and worked with. So in that sense, they say that. So it just depends on what people mean by the astral realm. And no, I do not believe for a second that you can tell the realms apart just because of some color or something like that. And the various passwords and stuff like this of Kabbalah and mystical societies and stuff like this. As a rule, this has nothing to do with which plane you're on. Yes, you might move about within some projected egregor temple, or maybe something even more real than that. But I don't think it's at all, you know.
Okay.
And
Cool.
you notice that the seal of the Morena, or moraine, depending on which gender. Moraine is I guess the masculine, and Morena is the feminine. You notice it's a couple scythes, to harvest the grain and stuff like this, tied together, angled together, and kind of pegged together. But it's almost like a teeth sort of thing too, and that kind of relates to some stuff. And of course, the other is like a shield. We don't really go into Dracula here. I don't think. I don't know if he goes into it. If
Right.
uh,
Hollywood vampires.
a vampire, whatever it is, but it is sort of real thing, real thing. Well, I mean, Vlad Vampire is definitely a real character, but
Right. Right.
Okay, so what I've written now, I'm going to work with some of this, so maybe I'll say it some of this better the second time. But 4 harvests from every vine and vein. Persephone makes an announcement from her undead home. This rising moon. The transference of the mystery of every form is processed. This rising moon. The Princess of Cups, in the most primal sense, must effect a modification by the affect of emotion unto what is best. What we witness is not hallucinations, but the undead communication provoking deeper discipline. In the metal box directs the offerings. Like sleep, the rites reach a state of abandon. We have shut ourselves to those merely living under the sun. Certain entities have gone beyond titles to transfer by what remains. The dreadful transference of a Morena. By her craftiness, play, and stillness, are both of which she is virtually unknown. With each energy, sound, and color, she takes up the sigil of the covenant of Drakon and feeds by projection, flayed from the wavering and degeneration. The auric field is torn in the victims. Tradition tells us of the change that happens towards others becoming Morenas. The Siopra is either favored or reviled as a vehicle of superstition. With a skill beyond their body, they affect others and have personal communication. Distinguish between donors and prey. In your experimentation, distinguish between donors and prey as you do between means and ends in a sense of violation. Combine the experience with specific vibrations. Societies will become unrecognizable, but our rising power towards death will live in our kingdom for all eternity. We have been shaped by the outsiders to what we are upon, and will use their systems towards what we have chosen. We will not move our attention from what we have summoned. A descent in and with the dark is needed for this transformation. Some are trained up for willing succession from one who has become dark and ready to translate into their undead kingdom. The veils to the acausal are lifted, and the ascending centers opened for possession. And what are one's thoughts?
At the beginning, when you mentioned harvest, just yesterday, I was thinking upon, Mabon. I had wrote, in times the wheat is scattered, lost to those anew, those who need it too. Think of one's needs and give out of true, reaping what you sow, that it could benefit too. Or more. I just said two because it was a little rhyme. Um, and also, I was writing about peace and balance unto the seasons, which is needed. Help along this balance gently is what we need to do. For treacherous desires shan't come near the truths, directing as such to what and where, and put it where it's due. Fire can cleanse, yet it also can be controlled. For intelligence over a single flame helps a bit, yet we can contain. So that's just interesting. You mentioned the word harvest, and I wrote this yesterday, last night or yesterday sometime.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that this seasonal works up for is, okay, we have the is it citrine or is it just orange quartz or whatever, my agate, my four-sided crystals. So that's going to be present there in the middle. And one of the things about that is that, so I've included aspects of different rituals and stuff like this throughout the book. And one of the things is the dying ritual, is the transference into a crystal or transference into somebody who is the successor. So that's one of the things that is brought up in what we are going through. Now, my little thing on hemp, with the hemp double cord there, that I'm going to try with each item to put it in front of the camera, but if you don't see it, you don't see it. I don't know why it's not showing. That's kind of weird. But
maybe
it's a symbol of the union. It has the 6 points. So just like 6 of the centers that we list there in my that we talk about. Well, I mean 6 centers outside, so the space outside yourself. So we have Amshut, in a way, but also inside the self, the cup rud bug are the edges of that thing. So you can have that represented in the points and the little markers outside the points. Up, down, left, right, forward, backwards. The A is the up, down, the back and forth is the M, and the SH is front, back, and T forms in the middle. So we have this formula sort of necklace here, And on silver, which is, of course, an important thing in the vampire myths, but of course, just like vervain, you're not going to really protect yourself from either the physical attacking vampire or the other types, just because you eat vervain, you know. But honestly, vervain's one of those things that, you know, it helps you with allergies and stuff like this. So it makes sense. As we leave the frozen time of year or return to it, vervain's available. So either you harvest it and eat it fresh, or you save some of it for the winter, that sort of thing. Vervain, verbena, whatever you want to call it. And you have, so this, the interlocking tetrahedrons, which is of course an important shape. So you have two together. They call it the Merkabah thing, but you got sodalite, so I got that. And I got my color changing mood ring here.
Cool.
I'm still trying to find my fire ring in my I still haven't found my fire ring from my from the Beltane ceremony that I dropped as shown.
Oh no,
And
it's
I'm not
still
even
out.
sure if a bird, apparently some
Yeah,
birds will look at it and say, oh, it's shiny, let me take it somewhere.
pick it up and take off with it. Oh man,
So
it's
I
still
have
out.
this
It's pretty
3-layer
out there.
blues candle, and it's probably have its different scent each time, but I have pretty solidly had blue candles for my seasonal here. I have a sea salt driftwood, and so this is a soy wax thing. I'm not sure how long these are going to last, but I have a 7-branched candle holder, and it doesn't say anything Jewish specifically on it, so I thought it was okay. And honestly, they copied a bunch of things anyways, but the you know, because it's a planetary sort of thing. You got the sun in the middle and the other, but it's all blue, and they have this. It was an odd size, but I thought it would work. Now, another thing, feel free to throw in any meaning that you might have. I have a midnight stars sort of candle I got here. I got 2 candles made from that one seasonal where something happened, and I guess it was really fortunate that I was outside, because for some I guess I hit an oil pack in that can. If you saw that, all of a sudden that one candle kind of flamed up real big.
Yeah.
And so the remnants of that have gone into other candles. And so, you know, here's one that used to be a citronella one, or maybe it just adapted some of the citronella stuff. But so one's more gray than others. I guess we're going into the night of the year.
Yeah.
So not only are we talking about the descent of the year, but the day and all this stuff. I like to do these in the evenings, and this ocean blue mist thing. So a lot of water and that sort of stuff going on, an unconscious kind of flow into things, but a planetary thing that goes inside oneself and outside oneself. You know, a union of multiple things. Of course, you know, a core and Persephone. Persephone is one of the ideas about core. And of course, people talk about core as the central goddess, I guess, particularly from the romantic side. The people who are going to personify and all that sort of stuff, people talk about the resurrection of the cult of core, particularly the Feraferia people, and the, to a lesser extent, the Church of Hermetic Science, or simply Astartes, which kind of connected to that. It's not, the three aren't the same, but you know, they kind of overlap. So definitely you hear some of that mythology going on. But you notice with the vampire chant, you're dealing with the different colors, you're dealing with the positive and negative. It's not all